Hello future people, welcome to Getting Tabled. I'm Jason the Bruce, and today we're filming from my living room because we're taking a look at Blood and Plunder. Here we are with the Blood and Plunder Blackbeard versus Maynard 2-player starter set. We originally spoke about this maybe about 18 months ago when the Kickstarter was about to launch. This is a very different type of set for me because generally speaking I tend to do more sci-fi and fantasy. There's a little bit of modern day stuff, but I've never really delved into anything that's based on proper historical events. This in particular is a game that is very much supposed to be as historically accurate as it can be. Like, it's fun first and foremost, but they do try to get it as close to the actual real world events as they can, to the point where apparently their rule sets to some extent actually get referenced by historians and stuff. I may be oversimplifying that a little bit, but I remember something about that in the actual interviews leading up to the Kickstarter. This is the very first time Firelock games have gone into hard plastics, so I'm very much looking forward to having a look at that. The artwork on the front of this box is absolutely phenomenal. Like, that image, and it's the same image that we saw on the Kickstarter, but that image is fantastic. I have no idea who their artist is, but they are phenomenal. Seriously, absolutely phenomenal. As you can see, it's a rather large box as well. On the back, we get an outlook of what's supposed to be in the actual box itself, kind of an example of how the game plays, an example of what the minis are going to be like, our two heroes over here, and so on and so forth. The starter set contains one softcover rulebook, one Edward Blackbeard Teach figure, one Robert Maynard figure, 24 plastic sailors, 2 plastic ship kits with options to build either the Balandra or Bermuda sloops. We get 2 activation decks, 1 unit and ship cards. We get a 3x3 sea and land mat, so this flips over. We get a turning gauge, we get a stink pot gauge, we get wind direction gauge, 2 punchboard terrains, 6 D10s. Oh, that's nice. I like D10s. Marker tokens and a measuring ruler. So, with all of that in mind, I'll start opening it up. Box has that nice linen feel, so it's a really nice, good quality box. Looks like my innards have taken a little bit of a beating in the shipping. That's something that happens. Nothing I'm concerned about. So as you can see, the water mat's actually quite nice. Detail-wise, the artwork on this is phenomenal. It is a paper mat, so it's one that you're going to have to be careful of. This is fresh out of the box, so the creases are much more pronounced at the moment. You can get these flattened out over time. Generally speaking, these tend to be more fragile than your neoprenes and so forth. That should be fairly obvious. And likewise the back, and this is the section that we haven't seen yet, this is our land. A very nice, lush land, honestly. I like the fact that it's not just all green, there's actually like sand. This is like clearly like just past the beach or something. I quite like this. The flowers are a nice touch too. Not photorealistic by any means, but I don't think that's a bad thing. I actually quite like it when they're a little bit like this because it means that your minis will stand out a little bit more. Whereas if it's photorealistic, it kind of ends up feeling off. Alright, having a look at the bases here. I don't usually pay much attention to the bases, but obviously these are unique to the game, so I thought I'd actually have a closer look. So on one side, which is obviously the underside, you have Firelock Games, and on the other side is a boat deck, which is quite nice. Means that you can just paint this and you don't really have to concentrate too much on your basing. Alternatively, obviously you could go to some depths and fill that in and make it dirt or grass or whatever you wanted. It's not done in a way where you couldn't actually customise them. Taking a look at our two heroes now. It's a fairly straightforward kit, honestly. And I don't mean that in a negative sense, but there doesn't seem to be anything that stands out as split that shouldn't be, or overly complicated just to make it look more advanced. It honestly just looks like a regular minis kit. And given that this is Firelock Games' first time doing hard plastic, I'm amazed at how good these look. The detail on the clothing in particular is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, look at this on Maynard, all of the detail that's in here. It's phenomenal. Blackbeard as well, obviously, but the clothing in particular stands out. See if I can get a better shot of Blackbeard's head, because that's quite gorgeous as well. Hair in itself is usually fairly easy for sculptors. Faces is often a little bit harder. So there, you got some more hair. Somebody's hat. We got Maynard's face just there. They've done a really good job with these. Alright, and then under the first boxes that you come across inside of these is these two. Now, I expect that these are probably separated for one player and the other player, but I don't know that yet. Let's have a look at this one. Just looking at the contents that are in it, I suspect that I'm probably right, because we have one of the boats here and we have two sprues of men. Before I look at these any closer, I'm just going to quickly have a look at the other box and see if I'm correct or not. Yeah, seems to be like I'm true. I'm just going to double check to see if these sprues are actually the same or not. Yeah, so I'm happy to report, when you're opening this, if you're splitting it up with other people, these boxes can just be separated between the two of you. The contents are exactly the same. That's what I was expecting, but I just wanted to verify that, because not everybody always does that. I'm really happy with what I'm seeing so far. Let's get in for some close-ups. Alright, so here we have our 18th century pirates crew, and this is... You get 4 of this sprue. They're all the same. So, tons and tons of options in this, and that was fairly obvious from the actual instruction kit as well. But the thing that makes it a little bit clearer as we start looking through this, looking at the bodies and how everything is sculpted, it looks like this is going to be very easy to put together. There's no nubs to hold things in place, but this is hard plastic. You shouldn't need this. It's not super glue. Again, much like the heroes, this clothing is just absolutely phenomenal. Like, the clothing is usually something that gets ignored quite a lot, honestly, because, well, you can paint that detail in. But even for beginners, this is fantastic. The detail in this clothing is absolutely phenomenal. They really have put the work in here. The other side is much the same. Like, the detail that they have put into this stuff is absolutely phenomenal. The options that you have, I mean, everything feels like it should. This is really nice. And whether you're playing with 2 people or this is just all for you, you've got enough here to do pretty much anything you want with. So there's 4 sprues for the boat itself. Again, you get 2 of these. I figured I'd start with the ship hull because, well, it's the thing that's going to stand out most to you. Again, the sculpting and the detail on this is phenomenal. The wood grain is amazing. I'm hoping it's coming out on camera as much as it is in person, but this is absolutely phenomenal. I mean, I haven't really built any pirate ships, but honestly, this is far better than I expected it to be. We've got some what appear to be cannon pieces in here, some, I assume they're ropes for the, or ladders or something, I'm not 100% sure there. On the back side, you're even getting wood detail on the inside of the boat here, which, again, phenomenal. It's really, really nice. From there, we'll go into the rest of the boat. So this is our main deck, obviously. Wood detail continues to be phenomenal. Upper deck. And that appears to be the aft of the boat. The underside of the two decks is just plain because, well, you're never going to see those. But look at the detail in the back here. It's just magnificent. I'm really tempted for mine to take inspiration from the movie Hook and try to paint it up like that. Or at least try to do it with one of them. I don't know yet, obviously, but it's just an idea I think is cool. Sprue number 3 now. This is the one that have our masts and stuff on it. Decorative piece for the front of the boat. The masts actually have wooden texture as well, which you wouldn't necessarily expect, but they have gone to that detail. I mean, I don't know how many more times I can say this thing looks phenomenal, but if this thing comes across on camera half as well as it does in person, I'm kind of sitting here going, oh, why have I held out for so long? I mean, I know that answer, but... See, pirates is just one of those things that have always been cool. Like that, whether they were in real life or not, it's completely irrelevant. Like, the fictionalized and historically, they're just really cool. You always kind of like those anti-authority heroes. I'm not actually saying that they were all heroes. We know for a fact that they were not. But quite a few of them were there because they were forced to be. Pirates is also one of those hard things because historically there's a lot of information that we can't necessarily trust. But, oh, this is just so gorgeous. It's really, really nice. Each player gets 2 sprues of men in one boat. So that's enough to build 12 men in one sloop with all of the trimmings that you're ever going to want. When you're building this, you are going to want to build this in parts because obviously if you put all of the details on, you're going to struggle. And if you want to put sails on it, that is something that you're going to have to do yourself because it does not come with those. We've got a card for each of our heroes here. I'm not going to read through all of this, but obviously feel free to if you would like to. The reason I'm not is just simply I don't know how well the rules work at this stage. Just to give you an idea. Here's our card for the Blanderer. And all of the rigging and everything that you should expect. This is all based on real life and historical, which I really like that detail. And then here we have the Bermuda sloop. We get a bunch of dice, but this is not the important thing. We need to see how they roll. Here's our D10 for layout. The skull and crossbones is your 10. And layout, as far as I can tell, hang on, appears to be the same. Yeah, it's the same as the standard dice. So there should be no surprises there. Scientifically, it doesn't make much of a difference, but according to statistics, apparently it does. Seems like they roll all right too. Oh no, We do have one Bruce. Only the one, though. We have 2 event decks, one for the Pirate and one for the British. I'm not going to be opening these up and going through them because these are an existing product. You can already see what these are. These are not new that I'm aware of. That's just, we have what we need for the box. Alright, we've got 2 token sheets. This first one is literally our tokens. There's our wind direction. There's our measuring rule. Lots of tokens, because obviously I don't know the rules yet. I don't know what all of these mean. Well, I can tell you this one's fatigue. That one's obviously on fire. Not sure. There's a smoke one over here as well. Other side is the same. And then we have our terrain. Now, I know not everybody likes 2D terrain. For a 2-player starter set, it's kind of really obvious because you're only just starting out. It's just learning how to make the rules. And you can obviously go on and replace these with other things at another time. And in the case of the other side, without sculpting your own, this sort of stuff is not actually quite as easy to find. And here, of course, we have the actual rulebook itself. Now, this is the new rulebook for Blood and Plunder. I am looking at this for the first time. I'm just going to kind of skim through this. But if you would like me to do a proper in-depth look at the rulebook, please let me know, keeping in mind that it will be coming from the point of view of somebody that is looking at the game for the first time. So if that's the point of view that you would like to hear, let me know, because I probably won't film it unless I get requests for it. There was a hardcover version of this century available. I chose not to get that just because of budgeting reasons. First impression. Ooh, this is pretty. Historical overview. Always good to see some painted stuff out there. I don't know if we actually know what colour Blackbeard's boat was. Again, I'm just skimming through this. By all means, if you want to have a more in-depth look, then let me know. Game Essentials, so we're just going over the basics of how the rules work here. So this is how you take your turns. Everything has actual proper photo examples, which is nice, as opposed to just basic fig diagrams. I really, really like that. It really adds some prestige to the book. Critical damage tables. Oh, here we go, reading about ship characteristics. I would assume that there's specific ways that those ships can get damaged and stuff. I'm guessing that's why we're getting that. Going through the characters. So this does cover stuff that's not in the starter set, which is nice because that is stuff that a beginner will want to know, which is essentially, what do I get next? Missions. And then a little bit of advertisement in the back. So there we go. That's the brand new 2-player starter set for Blood and Plunder. I kind of came into this not really knowing how I was going to feel. When the Kickstarter was live, I was extremely excited for this. Like, very, very excited. But as time went on and more things came into my life and I kept on trying to push, and I don't know, at some point that excitement died off for me. This starter set is phenomenal. Any of that is all gone. I'm really hyped for this because it's so pretty. I don't know when I'm going to be building or painting this. Obviously, if you want to see more of this, let me know and I will get to that. I'm talking more so if you want to see the built models and you want to see my progression perhaps, as opposed to, I mean, if you want to see gameplay, that's something I'm going to struggle with in the case of this because I need to find somebody to play with. But in all honesty, if you're at all interested in pirates, you need to look at this. I already kind of expected that this was going to be nice. I didn't expect that it was going to look this good. Because honestly, these miniatures are far better than I was expecting. I was already expecting them to be nice, but these are not cheap hard plastic miniatures. These are quality. They have spent time on these, and it shows. In the words of Molly Meldrum, do yourself a favour and have a look at this, because it's well worth your time. It's worth all of your time.